About 86 to 84 million years ago, a vast ocean covered what is now North America. Above its fish-rich waters, a master of the soaring air is the Pteranodon. This flying reptile, whose name means wings without teeth, was not a dinosaur, but a pterosaur perfectly adapted to aerial life, using thermal and ocean currents to save energy. Its light body, its membranous wings supported by an elongated finger. The Pteranodon had a sharp skull, which made it a formidable hunter. The Pteranodon had a long, toothless beak, ideal for catching fish and small marine animals. Males sported an imposing, bony, red crest on the top of their skulls, used for sexual displays and to impress rivals. Females, smaller and more discreet, choose their mates based on these visual signals. The nest was usually located on clifftops overlooking the ocean. Female Pteranodons were very attentive mothers, taking great care of their offspring. Fragile and covered in light down, they depended on their parents for food and to learn to fly. Young Pteranodons hatch from soft-shelled eggs, on cliffs or coastal areas. Strong winds sometimes cause young Pteranodons to delay their first flight. For the first few weeks, the Pteranodon stayed close to the nest. Its wings were still too weak to support its body. The Pteranodon's diet was primarily piscivorous. The Pteranodon grew quickly, its body expanded rapidly, and its wings elongated at a surprising rate. The Pteranodon lived in colonies and was sociable. By the time it reached adolescence, its wings were almost as large as an adult's, and it began to learn to fly. The first attempts were clumsy, its wings trembled, and it lacked balance. The Pteranodon was capable of flying and gliding over long distances. It likely used thermal and sea currents to move effortlessly. The Pteranodon had an impressive wingspan, ranging from 5 to 7 meters for the largest individuals. The Pteranodon weighed between 20 and 35 kilograms. The Pteranodon lived mainly in coastal regions and shallow seas. It lived in the region now known as North America. Its home range was the rock formations of Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, South Dakota, and Alabama, which were covered by the Cretaceous interior ocean. Its lifestyle was therefore marine and coastal, flying over the seas in search of fish and small aquatic animals. Its life was punctuated by fishing and guarding its territory. The smaller, more discreet females guarded their young near the cliffs. Now that we know the physiology of the Pteranodon, let's discover its history. Today, our Pteranodon takes off from the cliff to go fishing. The weather is mild, but it can change quickly because we are close to the coast. The Pteranodon soars above the waves, its piercing eyes fixed on a school of fish simmering beneath the surface. Before it stretches a gigantic school of fish, it's an unexpected stroke of luck. There's no hesitation, it springs into action. The first attempt was successful. Our Pteranodon is truly gifted. It decides to gain altitude, as the ocean currents are becoming increasingly strong. It realizes at the same time that its fish is attracting covetousness. The suitor is truly determined and extremely insolent. Now the situation is hopeless, confrontation is inevitable. Our Pteranodon won't let this happen, because it's the one that caught the fish. The opponent is very skilled, but our Pteranodon is the most determined. It is his lunch. Pteranodons spiral through the sky, each fighting for the precious catch. Simultaneously, the two Pteranodons released their grip, and the fish plunged back into the ocean. Fortunately, our Pteranodon's speed allowed it to intercept its prey before it hit the water. Speed is now vital, as the ocean is increasingly furious, raging with force. The other Pteranodon charged forward with impressive speed, driven by a fierce determination to capture the fish. At the same time, a gigantic rogue wave arose and crashed down with relentless force on our two Pteranodons. Our Pteranodon is lost underwater. He's still groggy from the speed and power of the wave. Revived by the survival instinct, he powerfully rushes towards the surface. Out of the water, the large male Pteranodon catches his breath in a jerky manner. visibly stressed. Unable to grasp the gravity of the moment, the second Pteranodon remains perplexed. Disoriented, it tries to grasp the situation, but remains completely lost in the waves. Against all logic, it continues its underwater swim instead of returning to the surface. Our Pteranodon, true to form, does not lose sight of its objectives. Reaching the surface, it powerfully spreads its wings and soars above the choppy waters, holding its fish in its beak. The wind is in its favor. The first Pteranodon is finally saved, but the story isn't over yet. Let's return to the second. The waves become increasingly relentless, and the Pteranodon's survival depends on its strength and determination. It struggles in the eddies, trying to keep its head above water against all odds. The situation becomes increasingly complicated, and he begins to feel tired. The Pteranodon sinks to the bottom, the furious waves on the surface keeping it trapped beneath the ocean. Peaceful in the ocean, the Mosasaurus suddenly felt the vibrations of a dive above it. The Pteranodon had just broken the surface, and each ripple echoed through the depths like a warning. For the Mosasaurus, it was an unexpected gift. The face facing him, the Pteranodon floated in the water, fragile and vulnerable. Unfortunately for him, he is not alone. The two Mosasaurus circle each other, their immense bodies undulating in a dangerous underwater ballet. Faced with each other, they opened their mouths wide in a gesture of intimidation. The first attack inevitably broke out, and one of the two was already beginning to gain the upper hand. Quickly, one of the Mosasaurus dominated the other, its powerful movements dictating the pace of the fight. Our Pteranodon takes advantage of the situation to resurface. Once the surface is reached, it's time to breathe deeply. Arriving above the waves, it inflated with air, each breath accentuating the fragility and power of the moment. Emerging to the surface, it inhaled deeply, each breath seeming to restore its energy after the exertion. Not a minute to lose, we must fly quickly. Within a few seconds, the Mosasaurus would have sealed its fate. Our Pteranodon soared above the waves, flapping its wings to escape the rough sea. Took flight into the orange sky, cutting through the twilight air. Gliding above the shimmering water, it took flight to gain height. Emerging from the fog, it rose quickly, beating its wings urgently. It soared above the mountains, its outstretched wings dominating the ridges. Carried by the currents, it glided silently over the rocky ridges. After a long and perilous journey, it finally returned to its familiar surroundings above the rocky cliffs. It watched its fellow Pteranodons, flapping its wings to move away. Above the wave-battered rocks, he searched for his female among his kin. They quickly reunited, and she offered him a nice, freshly caught fish. Our Pteranodon launches from the cliff to go fishing. The weather is mild, the winds are fair, and the sea is slightly choppy. From the windswept cliffs, the Pteranodon soared into the void, its flight immediately carrying it above the ocean. Regardless of the weather conditions, our Pteranodon bears a heavy responsibility feeding its offspring. For our Pteranodon, the survival of its young depends on its hunting. Bringing food back from the sea for his young is a source of happiness for him. Each flap of wings towards the nest transforms the fatigue of the sea into shared happiness. Our Pteranodon always returns to the ocean to fulfill its mission. Every journey between the ocean and its offspring is a moment of deep joy. Suspended in the air above the ocean, he suddenly spots a school of fish. By reducing the distance, it maximizes its chances of catching its prey. He leaps forward with a sure movement, head first, carried by his determination. Feeding its young is now the Pteranodon's primary duty. His heart fills with joy every time he joins his little ones after the sea. Each crossing of the ocean to the nest is for him an offering, a return filled with deep joy. Relentlessly, he returns to sea, guided by his duty. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you again for watching my video. Please let me know in the comments which dinosaurs you'd like to see in future videos.